If you are an aspiring course creator or a current course creator, then you'll know that the sales pages that sell your courses are one of the most pivotal parts to whether your course sells well or not. There are a lot of really important moving pieces, but sales page design is one of the crucial bits because that is where you are literally selling your course. It's a page that someone will come to decide whether your course is a thing that they're going to spend potentially hundreds or thousands of dollars on, or if they're going to just leave it for later. And so today I'm joined by a very special guest, Kate Scott, who is a website designer and sales page designer and online course creator herself. So she's bringing three incredible angles in to share with us some really pivotal design things that you must know when you're designing your sales pages in order to get them to be converting. Now, obviously, sales page design isn't the only thing that's going to contribute to a really successful course. There are a whole plethora of things, including brand and design of those programs, including how you present your webinars, including the funnels you create. There are so many moving bits to whether a course is successful or not. And I myself have had, thankfully, a successful course that has brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars to my business, but only because I knew the right things to do. And so I have two things for you. Firstly, this episode is going to be so useful for your sales page design. But if you're wanting to know even more tips on sales page design, branding your design, how to present webinars, all sorts of bits and pieces to make your course really work, I want to invite you to the free online summit that Kate, our special guest, has put together. And I myself am speaking at, and I myself will be attending because it looks incredible. And it's going to cover everything that you need to know around creating an online course. And it's going to cover so many different bits and pieces that you need to know as someone who wants to sell an online course successfully. It's called Launch Out Loud Summit, and I am so thrilled to invite you to it. I want to give you a free ticket. The link is in the description below. It's for 3 days starting on April 30th. I'm on April 30th, so do not miss that one. And you can grab your free ticket, the link in the description, but make sure that you don't miss this. If you do miss this and you're listening to this after the fact and you're like, oh, bummer, I missed out, don't worry. Still listen to this episode. I know you're going to get so much from it. And over the coming weeks, I'm actually doing a full series on the branding we need for our courses. I'm going to teach you through making sure that your course branding and designs and worksheets and everything you need to promote your course is all on point. Right, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. If you don't know Kate Scott is the founder and creative director of Launch Out Loud, a fun, fresh, and fabulous template shop that caters to online course creators and design-conscious entrepreneurs. With over 7 years of experience as a website designer and 4 years of experience as a course creator, Kate specializes in crafting high-converting websites and marketing assets that make her clients unforgettable. Her template customers have been featured in Forbes, Vanity Fair, New York Times, and more. And when she's not knee-deep in design projects, Kate loves sharing what she's learned with other business owners to make their dreams a reality. So let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, Kate. I am so thrilled to have you here. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very excited for this chat. I rarely have designers, other people that kind of know stuff about design on the podcast. So I'm actually kind of excited to get my designer kind of nerd on and enjoy what you're having to say. Because I know a lot
Absolutely.
about sales page design, but I'm very sure I don't know as much as you know. So I'm excited to learn a few things as well. But I want to ask you the first question I ask all of my guests, which is, what does an average day in your life and business look like? Like if I was to step into Kate Scott's world, what would my day be looking like as a bit of a behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I am a major insomniac. So my day starts whenever I choose to wake up. And that's what I love about owning my own business is that I get to decide what my hours are. And honestly, they're different every single day. So sometimes I'll wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'll sleep in until noon. But whenever I wake up, I always jump into my Asana dashboard to see what tasks I have planned for the day. And I try to tackle whichever ones are the most creatively challenging first, because that's when I need the most brain power. So it's always good to get that done when I have the most energy. And then, as I go throughout the day, I'll tackle some of the smaller admin tasks and stuff as I go. But I really just try to structure my day in a way that feels organic for me. So I don't try to force it. I don't time block. I don't do any of that stuff. I just have, my list of things that I want to tackle for that day, and I try to work through it as best as I can. And then when I'm tired, I quit, and that's it. So
Yeah.
it's a very fluid, flexible kind of schedule for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I think out of all the guests I've asked that question to, everyone has like such different answers that work for them. And I love that you've found like you can't just choose to wake up at the exact same time every single day and do that. So you've worked out the structure that works for you and leaning into that rather than trying to fight against it. Like I think did you fight against it for a little while, or have you always leaned into this is how I am?
I've always leaned into this is how I am. I've known that I'm this way for a long time, so it just made more sense to go with it instead of trying to fight it and force it.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Good on you. Okay. Now I want to dive into our sales page designing stuff. But before I do, obviously you are both a website designer and you are a course creator. So I guess you'll see the nuances between like I'm a designer and a course creator, but I'm not a website, like I'm not like a huge webs person. And so I feel like that's giving you a little bit of insight, having that combo of skills being both of these. How do you think that's changed the way that you approach sales page design being both of those, like a course creator and a website designer?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've been designing sales pages since before I was a course creator.
Yeah,
But I think that creating courses for myself helped me to kind of figure out a little bit better. It helped me to test things, right? Because it's one thing to see, like, oh, this is working for a client of mine. It's another thing to be able to constantly tweak and adjust my own sales page and then see, oh, this is what's working. And so that's really helped me, I think, to come up with a kind of a templatized process or a templatized structure for my sales pages that I know works pretty much every time. As long as the copy is good, as long as the imagery is good, as long as you have those fundamental components, this structure pretty much works for everybody.
that's really cool. And yeah, I feel like being a course creator as well, you're going to have that the strategy side in your brain, like even more so because yeah, exactly, you can picture it. So that testing, that's really amazing. So I feel like you'll have some really great insights because you've been able to do so much testing and so much iteration, not just designing it for your clients. Okay, so let's start with the basics then. Although I don't know that this is the basics, what actually makes a sales page work? Like what can turn just someone just visiting the page to heck yes, I want to buy this.
It's so many different things. That's the thing about sales pages is because they're very complex pages. You know, you go to someone's homepage or their contact page, it's pretty simple. The structure, it's not going to be too long. There are so many different components to designing a good sales page. And it's not any one thing, it's the combination of all of the parts. If you can check all the boxes, then you've got it in the bag. But if you're missing a fundamental component, the whole thing can fall apart. So that's the tricky thing about sales pages is you have to check off all the boxes.
Yeah. What are some of the really important components that we need to make sure we remember?
So I want to start with kind of the design part of things because I think that that's something that a lot of people miss. You know, they'll check off
Mhm.
like, oh, I have testimonials on my page, or oh, I'll have a section that talks about objections. But it's how you display those things that can really make a big difference. So one of the things that I see a mistake that a lot of people make is they don't give their text enough room to breathe. This is really important because one of the things that I actually, you may have heard that too much text on a page is a bad thing. And I fundamentally disagree with that assertion. It's not too much text, it's how it's displayed. Is it displayed in a way that makes it scannable, that makes it readable, that makes it digestible? If you have too much text and it's all crammed into one spot, then that is going to be a problem. But if you can spread it out, display it in a way that really invites people into the journey, that's going to be a really powerful thing. And that copy can really drive conversion rates. So, first of all, give your text enough room to breathe. I know that some people don't like the long form sales page, but I'm telling you, if you have a certain amount of copy, and you want to fit it all onto the page, spread it out. Even if it makes the page longer, just spread it out a little bit. Make sure that you're not putting too much copy in each section. That's going to help you to design a page that people can absorb a little bit better because people are much more likely to scroll than they are to try and sit down and read a whole big block of text that's just all crammed in there.
Yes, I could not agree more with everything you've just said. Because I teach business owners design a lot, and yeah, it's never like I tell them like the less text you have, the easier it's going to be to design. But that doesn't mean that it's not like it's just because you stop adding giant chunks of text on a page. And when they give me like a lead magnet, and I'm like, I mean, this is fine content, but you need to spread this out over more pages because I'm not going to read that.
Mm,
And so I think the key word you just said there was scannable. And exactly as you say, people are just scrolling the page unless they're like really committed to wanting to buy this. They're just going to scan. They're going to look for the things that are going to attract them. So making it breathable, stretching it out, highlighting pieces of text, making some text larger, then it's going to play a huge role rather than, yeah, having that fear of a really long sales page. So you just squish it all up, but then actually it's still just, it's harder to read now that you've squished it all up, even though it's a shorter page.
exactly.
So do you have any, because I know there's a big, like my sales page for one of my courses is huge. It's so long. And I'm sure I could take some stuff out of it, but it's decently designed. So I'm not super stressed. But do you have any, like, do you think that a sales page can be too long?
Yeah, I think that one of the problems that I see with super long sales pages is that they have a tendency to be repetitive. So what I actually
Mm.
recommend is when you're writing your copy, make sure that you're not repeating the same things over and over again. You don't need to say things over and over again as long as you've said everything that you need to and not anything more than that. You've got the right amount of copy and it's going to be the right amount of length. However long that is. You know, some sales pages are going to be longer than others. But if you're starting to repeat yourself, that's when it's a red flag and it's like, okay, time to rein it in and try and be a little bit more succinct here.
That's a really, really great tip. I feel like I need to go through my page or ask ChatGPT to go through my page and say, hey, am I repeating anything here? What would you say? Yeah, because part of me is like, oh, I need to say it again because I need to make sure that they get what I'm saying. But also at the same time, that's going to make people just kind of zone out if they have read it because, like, oh, I've already read this kind of thing before. I don't need to, there's nothing new on this page for me to keep on reading. Interesting.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that take. Thank you. What are some other, do you have any other mistakes or tips for people that might be designing their own sales pages?
Yeah, one thing that I notice that people sometimes do is they'll hide all of their testimonials behind like a little testimonial carousel, right?
Yeah.
It's really important to spread out your testimonials throughout the page. Chances are, like maybe 1 in 10 people is actually going to scroll through that carousel, and they're probably only going to see the first couple of testimonials there. So there are a few different things that you can do to make your testimonials pop on your sales page. One is to just simply spread them out. So, you know, add a testimonial near the top, add a testimonial near the middle. You can have a carousel. Like if you have a lot of testimonials, like I have one course that I have so many testimonials and there's just not enough room on the sales page for them. At that point, you can start putting them into a carousel for the people who really want to do a deep dive. But otherwise, just try and spread them out throughout the page. And also, you know, I see people who will add a testimonial and it's like this big paragraph and that's it. It's a big paragraph with someone's picture. And that's not particularly helpful because, again, people are scanning. They're not going to stop and read that. So find the most important part of the testimonial. There's usually going to be one sentence that you're like, oh, that's the gold right there, you know? Like I have a testimonial from someone who it's a whole paragraph and it's a great testimonial, but the last sentence was by far the best course I've taken this year. Well, that is the winning quote right there. So pull that out. You don't even have to post the whole testimonial. Just pull that one little quote out and make that the testimonial. That's something that someone is going to be able to read. If you want to include the whole testimonial, if it's really well written and you want to include it, then find a way to call out that text. You can make it bold, you can highlight it, you can change the color. There's all sorts of things that you can do, but make sure that you are calling out that most important part of the testimonial. Otherwise, people are going to miss the most important thing about it. I also recommend if you have a lot of testimonials about specific parts of your course, for example, I have testimonials about specific bonuses that I offer. Position those testimonials near the portion of the page where you talk about that particular thing. So like I have a Facebook group for my students and that's great, but a lot of people will look at that and say, you know, oh, it's another Facebook group for me to join. Like that's not very exciting. But then I have this amazing testimonial about how fantastic the group is and how helpful it's been. So put that right near where you talk about that group and that's going to have a much, much bigger impact.
Yeah, I love that so much in terms of, yeah, but just like, it's not rocket science. It's really just thinking about, all right, this is what I need to make sure that I do. This is what I need to prioritize. I need to put the right testimonial next to it. I need to make sure it's not too long. Do you have any other like little snippets that might be really useful for someone who's like feeling really overwhelmed with the DIY, like with putting together their own sales page?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to start with the copy. I write my own copy, and I think that that's something that not every designer does. So it's something that I always start with though, because if you can write the copy first, you can focus on what it is that you're really trying to highlight and accomplish. If you start with the design and you're not a designer, it's going to be trickier to kind of you're going to be so distracted by trying to create the perfect layout and thinking about colors. Start with the copy, start with the messaging because that is the most important thing. And then you can take that and start to pop it into some kind of a layout. So that's going to make things a lot easier. I also recommend that you think about the flow of the page. This is something that non-designers tend not to think about as much. So for example, if you have at the top of your sales page or anywhere on your sales page, you know, a layout where you have an image on the left and some text on the right. In the section below that, switch it up, flip them. This is going to make it feel more flowy. It's going to make it scroll. People are going to scroll through it, and it's going to feel more natural. Alternate your layout. So if you have a 2-column layout, then maybe do a 3-column layout. Then go back to a 2-column layout. Just alternate things so that it doesn't feel like every section is the same. That's going to make people feel kind of bored, and they're going to want to stop scrolling and looking at it. It has to be visually interesting. So I think just looking at it from that perspective and starting with one thing and then building it out and then saying, okay, how can I make this more interesting is going to help you kind of take it in a step-by-step fashion.
Yeah, that's like, if for those of you listening to the podcast, those were some really, really solid tips around doing this stuff. Like, yeah, making sure you have that text done first, I think is so important. As you say, like as a designer, I can just design on the fly and just add my text in as I go sometimes, although I don't usually for a full sales page because again, they've got to be so strategic. So I think nutting out that text first, making sure it's strategic before you start getting distracted with the design side is such a great idea. And then alternating that is, again, something I would do naturally, but I wouldn't think to mention to somebody. And I think doing that alternating, like you mentioned, like even having, if you have a picture on the left and text on the right, and then text on the right and then picture on the left, that also helps with mobile design. It means that you're not going to have
It
like two
does.
pictures in a row when it starts to compress it into mobile. So yeah, that is a really, really great advice. Um, do you have any particular tips between mobile sales pages and computer? Like, is there anything you think of strategically when you're designing those to make sure that what you're making on the like a full desktop view would still look good on a mobile view?
I design on Squarespace specifically, and Squarespace is such an easy platform because, it takes you do have to kind of rearrange things on mobile, but really, I don't even design like mock-ups for the mobile version of a site. I just design the desktop version and then think about how that's going to compress down, and it should be pretty natural. Like if you have a 3-column layout, well, those columns should just stack on top of each other. It doesn't have to be super complicated. Make sure that you, like you said, don't have two images randomly on top of each other. Just make sure that it feels like you're alternating text and imagery, that there aren't any like big weird spaces, and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Question around, how like when you first go to a sales page, you got that first above what we would call above the fold, kind of like the first thing people would see before they
Mm.
start scrolling. Do you have any particular tips around what we should consider for above the fold? I should just explain that a little bit more. If you're listening to this and you don't know what above the fold means, it's pretty much, yeah, when you first go to a web page and whether you're on a mobile, whether on your desktop, before you scroll at all, you'll see either imagery or text or both. And that's called the above the fold section. And obviously the section is really important because it's going to hopefully give someone enough information and convince them to keep on scrolling and not kind of overwhelm them or give them nothing. What's your
Yeah.
take on it?
Absolutely. So the most important thing to have above, well, there's actually two things. They kind of go together. The most important thing to have above the fold is a really strong hook. So yes, you should include the name of your course. Oh, you don't have to actually. Some people just have the hook. I actually on my sales page, I just include the hook. I don't actually have the name of my course until further down the page. So that is okay. But the hook is basically a statement about the transformation that your students are trying to achieve when they sign up for your course. So for example, I teach Squarespace designers how to design and sell Squarespace templates. And so my hook is launch a profitable Squarespace template shop that fits your life. And there's a few different components of that statement, right? So first of all, I'm talking about what the outcome is. And they know that they want to launch a template shop. What kind of template shop? Well, it has to be profitable, otherwise it's not worth it. And then something that fits your life, meaning that I'm signaling to them that this is a course that's going to have an approach that's a little bit more tailored to what their specific goals are. So come up with a statement, and you can use ChatGPT to help you kind of with ideas about how to craft this statement. But it's basically a statement about what the outcome is that your students are going to achieve, because that's why they're signing up for the course. And so you have to hit them with that first. Otherwise, if you just say the name of your course and that's it, they're going to walk away because they're not going to know what that actually means for them. It's not going to signal to them what they're actually going to achieve. It has to be something that really grabs them and hooks them in. So that's the most important thing. And then follow that with a call to action. Now, I do want to actually, if I can just pause and talk about calls to action a little bit before before I talk about the third thing that should go at the top of the sales page, is one of the things that I really recommend for non-designers. This seems to be a sticking point for people. Come up with an action color. Okay. So you have your color palette. You should have one color that psychologically signals to visitors of your sales page that this color means it's time to take action. So you want to use that color, and preferably it should be one of the brighter, stronger colors in your color palette. Use that color as the background for your buttons. And also, if you have any sections on your sales page that where the sole purpose of that section is to tell people to sign up for the course. So you may have a section in the middle that just says, are you ready to do such and such? Okay, sign up. You can use that as the background color for that section, but you don't want to use it as the background color for any other sections, any informational parts of the sales page. It's just for those action sections. And that's going to have the impact of really signaling to visitors like, it's time to click, it's time to do something, it's going to stand out. So that's really important.
Just
Going
on
back to
that,
the top.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that tip for a little while, and then my Facebook ad strategist was like, "Oh, your buttons are all different colors." I'm like, "Of course, my brand's multicolored. Like, why wouldn't I do that?" And she's like, "Well, actually, it can actually help to have the same color." And I was like, "Oh." So I'd already done my whole sales page at this point. So I was like, I'm not going to go through and change everything to not be purple or blue or whatever it is. But I did make all of my buttons black, and they're really like, which stands out quite a lot against my multicolored design. But it was so hard for my little brain to be like, oh, I'm going to make them all the same. Okay. But you're so right, because psychologically, people are, it just make like no one's going to look at your page and think, oh, all the buttons are black. That means I must be taking action at this point, or all the buttons are
Right.
this. But yeah, just kind of it in the back of their mind, we're kind of teaching them, yeah, this is how we take action. This is where we take action. And I love the addition of making that, yeah, strong call to action sales page section as well. Maybe that similar color. This is such a small question, but if you would have a button color on that section that has the new background color that you would normally be using for a button, what
That's
color
right.
do you
That's a
make the
great
button on that
question.
section?
Yes, no, that's a great question. So oftentimes, because that your action color is usually bright and it stands out, it depends on your brand, of course, but usually because it's bright and it stands out, I will use a white button
Yeah.
or whatever my lightest neutral color is. So yeah, that's actually a fantastic question because I know people are going to get hung up about that. But yeah, so like for example, on my sales page, I have, or a sales page that I'm designing right now, I have the background is bright orange, right? And usually my buttons are bright orange. So I'm just going to make that button white so it stands out against the background.
Perfect. Great. Continue on with tip number 3 for our
That was
above
that
the
was an
fold.
excellent question though.
Thank you.
So then the final thing that you should have at the top of your sales page, if you're having a launch, okay? And this is specifically for when you're actively launching, is a countdown timer. So and you know, include like a call to action type of text with that, like the sale ends in, or the launch ends in, or the doors close in, however much time. The reason that countdown timers are so important, and I at one point they kind of became controversial for some reason. I think people felt like countdown timers pressure people, but here's the thing, especially for people who have ADHD or are neurodiverse or in different time zones, right? Instead of just saying like letting people know the sale ends on this day at this time in this time zone, don't make them convert that in their head. Just tell them exactly how much time is left. It's going to actually ease their concerns a little bit because they know that they're not going to miss it by accident. And so I really think that countdown timers are actually one of the most important parts of a launch because otherwise you're going to get emails afterwards from, oh, I didn't realize it was ending now. I thought it was 12 a.m., you know, Eastern time, not 12 a.m. Pacific time. So, you know, which is it? You know, you don't want to get emails like that after the fact and have to issue discount codes because, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't communicate that clearly.
Yep, I hear that because on my most recent launch, I had countdown timers, but the ones I had in my emails were not. I made the first email and it duplicated like the emails after that. But when I duplicated the email, the countdown timer didn't work anymore. It was like saying some like 7 days time. I'm like, well, that's not true. It's like ending tomorrow. And I didn't realize until after I sent all these emails out to thousands of people. And then I started correcting it. And then, oh, anyway, I had emails afterwards saying, oh, I didn't realize it was going to end. And again, I was trying to work out. But then the people didn't buy again, even though I did send them the same discount because they were like, oh, my momentum's gone. I'm over it now. So I think, yeah, giving the
Yeah.
countdown time is a really great idea. I love your angle that you've taken to that to not make it feel pressureful, but also just to be really helpful. Do you, this is a practical question for me. I find it, sometimes I put a countdown timer as like a little footer at the bottom that's kind of sticky to the page. It kind of stays
Yeah,
there.
that's great.
My issue with that though is like, does it get stressful for people on mobile when they've kind of half, like a quarter of their page is taken up by this timer?
Yeah, so if you're using something like Deadline Funnel, which has that feature, you should be able to make it so that people can tap to hide it.
Yeah.
That's fine, as long as they can tap to hide it. But even on mobile, it doesn't take up that much space at the bottom. And usually, like people nowadays tend to have much bigger phones than they did 5, 10 years ago. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as most people make it out to be. So I've never gotten any complaints. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, cool. Good call. I like that. Okay. So if someone was listening to this and maybe they only have like one day to work on their sales page, maybe they've got something basic designed, but they're like, this is not converting how I want it to be. What are some things you think they should prioritize as they go through and just double check things?
Well, first of all, prioritize your copy. That's the most important thing. Again, your messaging is key, but then also when you're writing your copy, think about how that text is going to be displayed on the page and whether or not it's scannable. And so that really has to do with text hierarchy, right? So think about the different heading sizes that you're going to use. The largest heading size should only be used once at the top of the page, heading one, heading two, heading three. Heading two is for kind of the headline for each different section. Heading three is great for highlighting certain aspects of text or for like 3 column layouts where you need lots of little headers. Heading four is great for having like a pre-header. Like if you have a large heading, but you want to have a little bit of text right above it, you know how that, I think people know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And also keep in mind that when you do that, people are going to read the big text first, and then they're going to read what's on top of it. So it's not going to be from top down. It's going to be biggest to smallest. And then think about your body copy. And, if you have, it depends on which web builder you're using, but you may have different sizes of body text that you can use. Is there a place where it makes sense to use a larger size text for a certain little call out? Just be thinking about how that text is going to display. So even if you had no brand colors, no images, nothing else on the page but your text, is it still scannable? That's the first thing you want to think about. Then you can start adding in the images and everything else. But as long as you have that, even if you're selling from a Google Doc, which I don't recommend, but even if you're doing that, as long as you have good text hierarchy, it's going to be scannable. That is the most important thing. And also, I would say this too, because I see this a lot, especially on show it websites. And I don't mean to call people out on a specific platform, but it is a problem. Make sure that your smallest size text, your body text, is at least 16 pixels large. I see sales pages and websites sometimes where the text is so tiny. I have 20/20 vision, but I'm clicking away because I don't want to get eye strain looking at that. You have to make it big enough to really be readable. So as long as you're focusing on the copy and the text hierarchy and the text size, you're going to be okay.
So those some really great tips. I've got a short website for my main website, and I'm like, what is my text size? I should go back and double check my body text size.
It's really
Amazing.
good. It's really good to double check that, especially because, it's actually an accessibility guideline.
Yeah,
The whatever the global standards are for accessibility, it's important to have it be at least 16 pixels large.
such a great point. Okay, I know that this isn't all that you have to say about sales pages. Where can we learn and find out more about online courses in general?
Well, you can find me at launchoutloud.co. And by the way, if you're struggling to design your sales page, we sell sales page templates for Squarespace, and that's actually really helpful because it makes it a lot easier to tackle some of the things that I'm talking about, like good use of color and stuff. You have kind of an outline, you have a structure for your sales page. So you can find me on launchoutloud.co. I am going to be hosting a summit soon called the Launch Out Loud Summit for online course
Ooh,
creators, and you are going to be speaking there, which I'm so excited about. You're
me
going to be
too.
speaking about graphic design and brand design for courses. I'm going to be speaking about sales page design. So it's kind of a match made in heaven. So if you have any questions about designing anything for a course, this is the summit to be at. And you can sign up for that at launchoutloud.co/summit.
Amazing. I'll have all of those links in the show notes. And if you're listening to this when we release it, like act now, like the summit is on April 30th. So you don't have too long to make sure that you're got your ticket and it's ready to go. And yeah, totally free. So I'm so excited for people to rock up and join that. I was looking at the lineup again last night and all of the different topics. And I'm like, I really need to make sure I'm going to this because it looks so wildly useful for anyone doing online courses. So thank you for putting it together and thank you for having me a part of it. And thank you for sharing with us today all of your goodness on landing pages and sales pages, because I think it's so important that we do these right because it could make or break how our course sells and it needs to be done really well. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Wow, I hope you found that episode so useful. I know even I picked up a few little tidbits in there, whether it was from your hierarchy, how to design a page, what button color to use, what to focus on above the fold. I hope you took away one or two really important things that you can make as changes to your sales page today to start getting more conversions for every single eyeball that enters your page. And if you haven't already, make sure you grab your free ticket to the Launch Out Loud Summit. The details are below, and I cannot wait to see you there. I'll see you next week for part 2 in our online course series, talking about the program that I use to create my online course, host all my emails, and create my sales pages too. All right, see ya.